Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of season 6 of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast. Really appreciate all the love and support. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. Uh, Continue to follow the podcast along on all social media outlets, on Instagram at the Social Work Rants Podcast, Twitter at Social Work Rants, and you hit the like button on Facebook, aka Meta. Type in the Social Work Rants Podcast, hit the like button. Of course, YouTube, hit that red subscribe button, and again, all video, audio, obviously on. You can listen to the podcast on all audio platforms. And so thanks again for and leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Definitely those star ratings, those help out. So this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Bass City Entertainment, your home for online holistic self-care featuring Zumba and poetry, featuring my book. If you're watching on video, my book is in the background. Trying Through Pain, How to Maximize Your Full Potential During Hard Times is available on paperback and on Kindle. In 2023 will be a audiobook as well. No date still to be determined. So things are moving along. You For all my viewers and listeners, you will be hearing Dallas a lot in these first few episodes of season 6. Coming up March 4th, if you're in the Dallas area, come through, listen to me, come watch me and my fellow co-authors of Latinx and Social Work Volume 2. We are hosting a one-day summit. More details to be determined in the next couple of weeks. So definitely we getting the word out. It's been out it's been out on social media. It's been out on Instagram. Is on LinkedIn. So the summit is happening March 4th in honor of Social Work Month. In March Madness, so it's happening. I'm looking forward to that event. And speaking of Dallas, we got a talented licensed clinical social worker out in that area, Diana Beltran. How you doing?
Hello. Hi, everybody. Saludos también a todos. Yes, my name is Diana Beltran. I'm a licensed clinical social worker from Arkansas and Texas. I have my license in both states.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I am originally I was born in Chicago. I moved to Arkansas, and now I'm here in Texas.
Wow. How was that transition?
Yeah. Well, my dad, he was a supervisor for a company called Deluxe Media. So when I was born, we lived there for about like 4 years, and then we moved to Arkansas, and I grew up in a suburb called Maumelle. And then that's where I pretty much lived my whole life. I did 4 years at the University of Arkansas. Go Hogs! That's where I went to school for my bachelor's, and then I got my master's at UALR and social work. So I lived there, grew up there, and then made my way further down to the border, getting closer.
Is that a University of Arkansas Little Rock?
Yeah,
Uh,
UALR is University of Arkansas, Little Rock. That's right.
I'm still learning all these different uh, social work grad schools. It's like I never heard of when I started meet people. Like I was like, wow, there's a social work school.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I'm trying to get more into like trying to get connected with different grad schools, and especially talking about both regarding both books and things I'm trying to work on. So interesting. Um, so before we get started, I did want to ask get your perspective. You work in Texas and in Arkansas. Like what, uh, especially Arkansas too, because
Yeah.
they did something kind of out of to use straight perspective, kind of out of the box thinking and hiring Sanders, who used to be the press secretary, ain't she the governor now?
Yeah, she's the governor. I've been trying to keep up with the news, and I was just kind of like, Arkansas, what are y'all doing? We had a literally a rocket scientist, like legit. He had like I don't know what kind of credentials he had, like something in the nuclear field, a rocket scientist, and I was just kind of like, this is the obvious choice. But no, everybody voted for Sanders, and of course it was quite a disappointment.
so
Not a
so
surprise.
so my for all my viewers and listeners who are not in America, uh, Saunders, Sarah Huckabee, she was the press secretary under Agent Orange before she resigned, and nobody could nobody couldn't stand her, and just the press conferences with what the media was like just an event kind of like every day was something with her and it's
Right.
until she resigned. I think she was like the first big head like to resign. That
Mhm.
like the wheels like completely came off after that.
Yeah.
Um well, she was like the second one, like second big one too. Well, it doesn't matter. It was like everybody eventually resigns.
Yeah. Oh,
So
wow.
so it was like, well, like what happened? Why she got voted in?
I don't know. I think it's just because she's associated with Trump. Who knows? But yeah, it was quite a disappointment. Arkansas already lacks so much and they're so far behind in like education and mental health and all these things. And I'm just kind of like, great, just more setbacks. But I mean, Texas is not any better, so
Yes, I was leading right into that, which Governor Abbott being reelected, and I thought Beto had a real shot. They had a better shot being the governor than when he ran for Senate, and he lost too. So it's like what happened?
I know. I was very excited for Beto. I just really wanted him to win. I voted for him in this election. I was like thinking like, man, I think this is going to be the year we're going to have a Democratic governor and I'm over here pretending that I lived in Texas for forever. I've only lived in Texas 2 years and going to be 3 years in May, but yeah, I was not impressed with Abbott. So after Uvalde, that really went even
Mm.
more. So I was just kind of like, no, I'm gonna try and vote Democrat as much as I can, obviously with research, but
Right, of course, because not my home state, New York, has proven that even if you vote Democratic, it still be you still can't get
what you
I
need
think
and
what you
what
need exactly. So it's
you
like
don't.
so yeah. No, I just wanted to start off, get your perspective on that, and we could tie into to social work, mental health as you know, kind of like things like kind of like what happened, what can like we see like in the near future, and so, I mean, Republicans has always been like a history of just cutting stuff, and as of this recording, they're talking about just Social Security and all this other like and like cutting the IRS off like for the tax. So I don't know how that's gonna work, and like I'm like thinking that if I'm so we're not doing taxes no more, so can we get more see more on our check every couple of weeks if that's going to be the case? So I don't know. It's just a lot of ridiculousness. Is like too much, and but it's like you kind of have to like be informed of what exactly is happening, especially with these next 2 years, while Republicans in the U.S. have have a majority in the House, and they get to make the decisions. And hopefully, there'll be some bipartisan support in terms of what the country actually needs, and actually do what the people actually need, and not just
Yeah.
not like emails, still fighting over emails and some other classified stuff. And it's like that doesn't help doesn't help us that we trying to help the people. So it's like
Right.
kind of like who cares?
Yeah. I was really excited whenever I found out that the LPCs are now able to bill Medicaid and all of that because like I remembered whenever I started out in Arkansas as an LMSW, I we quickly got on insurance panels for Medicaid so that we could accept it for the kiddos. And then I found out like further, I think here in Texas is where I found out that LPCs can't bill Medicaid. And I was like, that's weird. Like, why not? Like, we're all mental health professionals. And then I think recently, I think they're going to pass that now, right? It's like in Congress, it's waiting to be signed. So now LPCs can accept Medicaid. And I was like, well, it's about time. Everybody needs to be on the same level. We need to help and be able to have, access to mental health. And sometimes there are people with just not enough resources to be able to have that access.
No, yeah, of course. There's always the debate of not enough resources and money being wasted and to other things. Like we could have a whole other conversations like why is the money going to all this money going to Ukraine? Why all this money is going to Israel? Why is all this money going to the defense where we already like got the biggest army and navy and all this stuff in the world, and it's like they're getting more money, and it's like money money that could have been used. Some of it, student loans could have been completely wiped out real
Oh my
quick.
gosh.
And it's
Don't even
like
get me started. I'm over here like just checking my emails and like, come on, is it going to be like, am I going to get 20K or 10K wiped out? Like, let's go. But I know that in February they're supposed to go to the Supreme Court and figure out like if it's going to be if they're going to allow it or not, which I just don't understand. If they're able to bail out these businesses during the pandemic, like why not
mm,
bail out these students that we are here to like
exactly.
literally serve everybody else like their mental health.
No, no, seriously, like um, I mean, I mean, a lot of that. I mean, I've had conversations like a lot of that has to do with us, black and browns. Like we get 10, 20K cut off, and we can actually use that money to actually invest in businesses, or we have our own businesses, on top of our 9 to 5, and like kind of really thrive. And of course, those in power don't want to see that happen. So that's one major theory in terms of that. So, but yeah, I would love to. I mean, student loans. I kind of like, all right. I did my paperwork, and it's like, all right, I'll wait to. And then I was excited about the 10, 20K, and then like they sent on top adding salt to the wound that they sent these false letters, be like, it got approved, like your 10, 20K got approved, and they were like, oh, we sent these letters by mistake. I was like,
Womp womp, right? Like big womp womp.
and then to find out the Republicans are blocking it, and it's like now it's like the Supreme Court will, mainly or Trump appointees. So we're already like fighting a more of an uphill battle. So who knows what they're gonna say. So a lot of people could use that relief. So and it's not just us, it's, people who went to school, and it's like kind of having to budget in order just to pay student loans that people need to buy food on the table, and we got inflation going on like crazy, and it's like
Eggs are $8.
uh yeah, it's crazy. I was joking the other day. It's like I'm gonna have to like buy a bunch of like egg cartons and like kind of cut them up and sell them by like how they used to do in the hood back in the day. So
Oh
it's
my
like,
God. I miss
I,
the day whenever I was in college and so I used to work for the U of A and like the not the counseling center, the tutoring center. And then I would just like go to the secretary and I was like, "Do you have any eggs?" And she'd be like, "Oh yeah, my chicken laid so many. Just bring a carton, I'll give you some." And I was just kind of like, "Thank you so much." Like, here's $1 or $2 for the eggs. And she's like, "You don't need to pay me." And I'm like, here's $1 or $2 because it's some poor college kid. Like, thank you for giving me fresh farmed eggs. And now they're $8. And I'm just kind of like, I need to go back and find me that lady back in Fayetteville.
for no, seriously, it's no, everything's expensive and housing is expensive, and we got politicians who don't know the meaning of the word affordable housing. So it's like people are really stuck, and I know many of us are stuck to provide and do. We try to do good work. We are doing good work, and it's like we're just kind of stuck because, like you mentioned before, the resources are just not there, or they, if they are, they're scattered around, and got to go an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, go to a different state just to kind of like get what you need. And I'm glad telehealth has played a big part and into that, and allowing social workers work, be licensed in different states, and do telehealth stuff. So it's just a domino effect, and I know I'm gonna use that term a lot. These first few episodes, just a whole domino effect, and which leads to voting, and how we started off the conversation is like people don't really understand what the domino effect of voting for certain candidates and what that really looks like. And
Right.
you know neither to me we had a space in this country where neither Democrats or Republican, like we need a whole new party. Like the whole constitution stuff is no just everything is just doesn't work in um in 2023. So with everything going on, it's just a lot going on, and it's kind of fit in this box where it's like a kid putting like a square in a circle, and it's like it's not going to fit, and it just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, whenever I was old enough to vote and then I started out in social work, I always voted based on like, what my clients needed and like not just like because I'm Latina and so like I'm Latina and then also like the population I served in Arkansas, I worked for Centers for Youth and Families and we served like the lower income economically had no access to mental health. And then my best friend Jessica Villegas, she and I were like the only clinicians that spoke Spanish in Central Arkansas, and so like people were traveling all over just to be able to meet with us and use their Medicare. And then so every time I voted, I was just kind of like, I need to do it for the people that are in rural Arkansas, and I need to vote for like, the immigrants, and I need to vote for, our LGBT, folks and this and that, and just like just kind of voted based on the what I needed from my clients and what my clients needed from me, because some clients that I was serving, they can't vote. And
Mm-hmm.
so like, and they need me to be able to be an advocate for them. And I felt like that was like my duty as a social worker, but also as like a human being in this world, right?
Right. No, that's true. But then again, like we have not you would think, obviously we have a lot of, I think there's more than what's being portrayed out of a lot of Latinos who are Republican, and there's a lot of anti-blackness within our culture that's been just generations of stuff that's been happening that we're trying to like kind of break now, slowly, and kind of like re-educating ourselves in terms of everything. But at the same time, just say Florida, for example, we got a lot of Cubans and even Puerto Ricans who are love DeSantis, and DeSantis is
He's a
Uh,
Trump point 2.5.
and there's a lot of Latinos who love Abbott in your state. So it's like,
Yeah.
which is what, and no, I don't always like to take what I see on the news, which is why like I have people like you come on and be like, okay, tell me what the real deal is in terms of like if what I'm seeing on TV, and I'm not talking about just CNN, and I'm talking about like regular CBS and Fox that like they do or say something is like, is that an actual like reflection of like what you're seeing day in day out? So
Yeah, it's kind of scary because so when I moved to Texas, I started working for the family place after I was able to get my license and everything, and I started working for the family place. It's a domestic violence shelter, and they do awesome work there, working with a lot of, DV survivors. And then when the idea started rolling around about the Roe versus Wade and having restricting abortion access, like the fear in me just kind of was just like, oh my gosh, like what if I have a client who is in a DV, relationship, and this is the way that her abuser is not going to control her, that
hmm,
like she is going to have to stay in this relationship, or the other way around, like flip-flopping it, the woman is an abuser and it becomes pregnant and then keeps the man just like in this cycle of violence the whole time. And so,
right,
and we even had a situation which I was just kind of like made me sick to my stomach, which um whenever we were discussing like what was going to happen, et cetera, but like even an abuser was talking about like just telling his wife to just wait. And then whenever it was like past the time that it passed, wherever you can like go and sue your partner for 10K, and all these like bounty hunters were about to just start popping out, he was just waiting for her to be able to have say that she went to go get an abortion after it passed so that he can sue her for 10,000. And I was
wow,
just like, oh my gosh, like this is just creating like violence and
hmm,
this perpetual cycle of DV, and just in a different way. And gosh, like I just remember just being so fearful, and I had to bring that up to my program director at the time and just discuss like, hey, what are the protocols? Like, what are we going to be doing? Like, because like what if I have a client that discusses that with me, like am I going to be in trouble like if I give her resources? Like that's my job, like I can't tell her she can and can't do with her body and her decisions. So
right,
it was quite a not a confusing time. I think it was just like a twilight zone, and everybody like trying to figure out what they're doing, what the protocols are, and we had to get HR to send us like, hey, like these are the policies, like we're going to keep, fighting for our clients. We're going to continue to advocate, like, just keep doing your job, business as usual. And I was like, phew, like, thank goodness,
hmm,
like, thank gosh, like, we're protected. We are here to serve our clients. So that's just like one of the examples how it affected me, and, working at a DV shelter at that time. So it's, it was a crazy time, still crazy time.
no, yeah. No, I can totally understand that, and I know on the news they were like talking to doctors and nurses, and kind of they were stuck of what to do in terms of risking their licensure and all this stuff, so and try to protect and do the right thing, and helping the patients out, but at the same time as like the law was going against them. So it was like a fascinating time that we are living in, and unfortunate that we living in, and is myself with a daughter. Luckily, she's only 11, but it's still like just having eventually as a parent having those conversations and making the right decision. Luckily, I'm in a for now in a state. Who knows if we flip red, but I mean, for now, it's still, a Democratic state where I'm at, and it's like, there's a lot of younger, Democrats in like the House of Representatives and stuff like that. So and people of color who are in those positions. So it's like the future is bright in terms of Democrats, so
Yes.
In Delaware, where I'm at. So it's you know, things can always happen. People, so not all skin folks. So it's like, we see that with Rubio and Ted Cruz, and we got, and I'm sure we have a lot of family members who like really saw their true colors since like 2016, and a lot of friends who like thought like you knew them, and then you really saw like the real deal, and it's like what?
Oh yeah, I think like just I try very hard to not discuss politics too much with my friends because I think it just causes a lot of conflict. However, I have a friend right now that I convinced to do social work, and I felt like it was my duty to just provide her with a lot of education on just minorities and like the struggles that minorities go through, and just kind of like giving her perspective on this and that, because although the privilege is just there, and sometimes that just blinds you, and that bias and all of that stuff and blah blah blah. And so I think that it was quite a time I felt like I was just kind of constantly educating people about like, hey, like you just have to think about this or that, or in terms of like the struggles that a lot of people had. And I felt like the pandemic also highlighted a lot of that stuff too.
Yes.
Like highlighted so much of like the barriers and like the issues and like all these what's the word I'm looking for? Man, maybe you know what I'm trying to say, but like,
Like the inequalities
yes.
that already existed, and just COVID just highlighted stuff even more. Like, okay, you're talking about it now because we all in the house, but we've been like in the, you know in the streets, like in the communities already doing this work. Been like we've been talking about this for forever, and it's like now it gets kind of talked about, and still really nothing has really been done. Solutions really have not been made to, Biden wants to put like, Wi-Fi throughout certain parts of the country. And so, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but still like
You
it's
can't
no,
it's still not accessible because
yeah.
it's so expensive. Like, during that time, I was still at centers. I was still working in Arkansas, and, Arkansas was a rural state. And I had parents, hi, pobrecito, my parents, they would drive to like a McDonald's so that their kids could literally just connect to the Wi-Fi
Mhm.
and they can do their homework in the car and just have that access to Wi-Fi. And they, couldn't do their homework on phones because like sometimes like some of the features that now the computers that the kids are using, like they just don't work on your cell phone.
Yeah.
And just kind of like even making it bigger was so hard.
Hmm.
And they don't have access to like computers or iPads because it's a privilege, right? Like, I mean, if you're trying to compare like, putting food in your fridge versus buying the new fancy iPad, like, well, of course they're going to buy food, not an iPad. And you're expecting and hoping that the school will provide you with all these materials, but no. So I feel like the pandemic just was just kind of like an eye awakening moment for everybody, but the sad part is that nothing really got done. It just kind of allowed people to see like, oh, it's not perfect, and we're over here like it's never been perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And it never will be perfect, but at least solutions could have been made. And I know, with the government, that's why I kind of like go back to, Obama, that, Bush did so much, the former worst president we ever had. The second Bush, like, and Obama when he came in, he had so much Bush did that was terrible that it took like 4 years just to kind of like kind of start from the negative and back and to neutral, and now he had like the second turn to right. Okay, now let's see what you can do. And I kind of feel like the same way with with Biden, that is like, Trump did so much. It was like every day for 4 years, and even candidate Trump did so much every day in terms of negativity. And then obviously, January 6th happened, and it's like
Oh,
just and now we saw the same thing happen in Brazil,
yeah.
and it's like we see having like other countries kind of like leaning towards that way as well. And it's like, Biden, and now Biden's kind of like a little bit in limbo, even though he's been in, from the senator and vice president, so he knows, everybody in the Senate and House of Representatives, they've been there for 1,000 years, so they know Biden, and they probably know Biden better than Biden knows himself. So it's like, he could try to kind of finagle and hopefully could get stuff done, and kind of like politic his way to like, okay, I need this done, or talk and whatever, and something hopefully. Otherwise, he's just going to be a lame duck for like these next 2 years, and it's like basically how kind of like Obama was like his last 2 years, kind of like a lame duck. It's like, I want to do this, I want to do this, and it's like Republicans got the power, or so it's like nothing really got too much done. So it's like, unless you really have to do research and be like, oh, look at other bills that were actually signed, and like nobody got time to really be like doing all that research like that.
Right. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, we still got we have another year to go, and then the next year we'll see like what's going to happen. I feel like it's going to be a fight between like a real fight, I think, next year. Just trying to like Democrats, Republicans, and just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to end. I just hope it ends well.
Hey, before we continue on this week's episode, I got to talk about my brand new sponsor, the Social Work Brands podcast has a real sponsor, and I'm so excited. It's Herd Technologies Incorporated. And listen up, if you work in private practice, this is definitely for you. Herd is the financial back office for mental health professionals. On average, they save therapists more than 60 hours per year in financial record keeping and $5,000 in taxes. We're in tax season, folks, so pay attention. If you're in private practice, a social worker in private practice, they'll take care of all your accounting needs, including bookkeeping, taxes, and payroll. They'll support your business throughout the year to make sure that you get maximum deductions. Now, who wouldn't want maximum deductions on their tax return? I highly recommend them if you're looking to get help for your finances. Check out joinher.com for more information. This is a game changer. This is tax season here in America. So joinher.com for more information. Uh, or else we might see more migration, just us Americans going up north to Canada.
Gosh, I know. Lord. I mean, a lot of people, I see now more on TikTok how people actually just leave the country and just go somewhere else. And I'm like, you probably made the right decision. Like, and I had a friend a long time ago when I was younger and I was like in high school. My friend was a foreign exchange student from Germany. And I remember asking him, like, why did you want to come here? And he's like, well, America is one of the greatest countries in the world. Like we see it all the time in the movies and we see it. And I was just kind of like,
The movies.
interesting. Okay. And he was like, yeah, dreams and land and this. And I was kind of like, yeah, that sure, that makes sense. And then I reflect on that sometimes. Like I'm like thinking about when I think about that conversation
Hmm.
every once in a while, and I'm just kind of like, no, we're not the greatest country in the world. Like, I mean, maybe we are in some way a powerhouse, but in no way really like we are so far behind in so many issues, and I feel like we're going backwards, and I feel like I don't know when we'll really go forward because we're just going backwards.
Mhm. And, and like all this stuff, basically like anti-women policies, and it's like, don't you realize that women live longer than men? And it's like,
Oh yeah.
so it's like just stuff that if you really just put in like practical common like sense, and it's like, what are y'all doing? It's like it just doesn't make sense. Like you want to like y'all always cut Medicaid and Medicare, and it's like that's how nonprofits, mental health services, get paid. That's how like if you work in one of those agencies, that's how you know more than likely get paid. That's how people get reimbursed for services that is said to the clients. And it's like you just talk about mental health. But if you cut the funding, then there won't be any. There'll be less mental health services than
Yes.
what you're providing, and it's like or like you know building all this housing, but it's not who could really like afford this housing and want to call it affordable housing, which is just you're just lying. People just straight up lying, and you want to like hire mental health workers in schools, but are you going to build new schools? Because people, the workers you want to hire, they're not going to have the space to work because these buildings are old. So it's like, you're just adding more workplace trauma for workers that you're going to hire because they're not going to have the space to like do the work that you're asking them to do. So it's like it's just dominoes effect. This and it's not just Republicans, is Democrats too. They trying to come up with solutions, but it's like they do it like halfway and not really thinking all the way through what they want to do.
Right. I guess like, that the I mean, the domino effect is so true because like if you really think about it, the the healthcare profession is made up of so many different types of people, right? And then when you mention like women, I watched this TikTok the other day and I started laughing because I was like, man, like a lot of the mental health field is saturated with women.
Mm-hmm.
See so many social workers that are women, and a lot of counselors are women, and then but this one was particularly like about a nurse and how like they underpay nurses because like they're women and women tend to go into those careers. However, if there were men going into those careers more, then of course the pay would be higher because they would not allow men to be paid at such a low wage. And I was like, I wonder if that's the same for mental health workers, because us social workers are underpaid too, and it's saturated with women. So if there were more men in social work, would we be paid more? And that was the question that I had for myself
Mm.
yesterday. So now I'm kind of curious, like, what do you think about that? Do you feel like that's true, or do you think that maybe like it's just healthcare in general, or just social workers are undervalued? Of course they're undervalued,
Yes,
but
they are
like
severely undervalued. And I mean,
severely.
man, that's actually a good question because I mean, I could literally in 20 years, I could kind of count with like both my fingers, and I might need one or two toes the amount of men who I've had like or like my coworkers or like supervisors or somewhere like directors who I needed like the answer to, and it's like there's not really like that many. Like I could probably write them down literally. It will take me like kind of 5 10 maybe like 15 minutes tops, and like I'll be done, and it won't fill up a whole page. So I've had luckily with the Latinx and social work book, like I've like kind of met just as many men with the book that I did like in my 21 years in social work. So it was like um I did have one job that was majority like all men, so it was like different dynamic experience with that. Um, and we weren't really paid like we should with all the lot of work that we did, and like the the workplace BS that we had to like go through, and just like their building we were in, and like supervisor we had, so it wasn't definitely like severely underpaid. But I think it's just social work in general. We just not, kind of like we people take us for granted. I mean, I'm always like advocate like we out there more than like if it wasn't for us, like we like communities would be in shambles. Like many more people deal with a social worker, or got to go talk to a social worker than police knocking on your door and firefighters, and that's no knock to them, because they have a hard job too. But at the same time, like we could solve a problem and solve it, and things would be okay, and unless something really happens, that we call the police police ourselves. And, but yeah, we're undervalued, underpaid, um, and this whole thing of like we're in it for the outcome and the income, that there's still a lot of that in social work. And I mean, I've always been about the the income on top of the outcomes. So that's how I started into the field. And like, what's the next move? How much I'm gonna get paid for this next move, and kind of like try to see the salary, like go off from there. So that, especially we're in inflation now, like people got families, and they got kids to feed, and all this stuff. So it's like kids are expensive. We're in inflation now. Like inflation's not going down. Hopefully 2023 later on in this year, hopefully something will break. But housing is expensive, and it's whether you rent or owning, and owning a home is no joke. So it's a lot right now.
It is. It is a lot right now. And, not only like are we undervalued, but like we need more people in this field, right? Like and sometimes like I was so surprised moving to Dallas, like the lack of, Latino counselors here in Dallas. Like I was like, wow, I'm gonna move from Little Rock, Arkansas, where there's like five of us. And then I'm gonna move to Dallas where there's gonna be more of us. And let me tell you, finding a Latino counselor was hard. Like
Mhm.
somebody that spoke Spanish and fluently, and just
Yes.
and knew the terminology and doing therapy in Spanish, because like I wanted to connect with them because there was nobody to connect with in Little Rock. It was just me and my best friend, literally
Mhm.
two people in Central Arkansas. We had Jason at Centers as well, but he was American, but he was raised in the Dominican Republic, and he had great Spanish. Like it was so awesome. He was a male counselor, so it was the three of us at Centers. But like it was really hard. I was like, oh, I'm gonna move to Dallas. There's gonna be so many, and none. And so I'm like, here, like, where are all the Latinos? Like, I'm trying to find you. So when I found this group practice, I was like so excited because it was all Latinas, all speaking Spanish. Everybody was a professional and just connecting with them. And so like I'm like in my head, I'm like, how can I get more people into this field? Like, how can we get more people that I understand that we're undervalued, we're underpaid, and it's hard, and we have families and et cetera, et cetera. But how can we get people excited about joining social work so that, we can serve the community and like help break down these barriers and help vote and help, our populations and our communities, and kind of tying everything back to what we were talking about in the beginning, just like being able to help have people have access to mental health and services and just resources in general.
No, absolutely. And I think part of it too is it goes back to social work grad, social work schools that it's you got to follow the money. Like, obviously, they want to cater to you taking the test and become a license, and they talk about private practice, and it really took, I guess, it took COVID to really kind of make the connection that okay, you want to teach us private practice, but I don't recall y'all offering a class on business taxes or business formation or like learn about business credit or anything like that. So if you're not teaching us how to like to properly do the fundamentals of learning, running a business and marketing your business, but you want us to do a private practice, how does that even make sense?
Right.
So it's like, oh snap, like we would have been killing it where everybody's like seeking services during COVID. Everybody's on lockdown. Teletherapy kind of like was. I mean, it was already kind of already out there, but it really like expanded further, and laws were taking shape for telehealth to really take off. And it's like people like starting from literally square one of like how like running their businesses, or at least they took that step forward of creating LLCs and stuff like that. But kind of like working behind the eight ball in terms of you know we could have been already killing it, making this money and seeing people, serving people, providing help, providing treatment, like what we all got collective PTSD from COVID, and we many of us are still grieving or losing family members. And I lost my mom, and then like working in New York and losing clients from COVID. So it's like we dealing with like collective loss and and it's pain, and yet because of our capitalism, we gotta keep pushing forward, and it's like there's no, it's just making time to like to rest, and it's like we need that, and it's like I see like especially on Instagram. I'm not too into the therapist TikTok stuff, but like just Instagram. See like there's so many different variables. People talk about different things, and it's almost like a civil war within social work. It's kind of like brewing. Is like there's like do corporate, and it's like get your license, and it's like you got an MSW. There's all these jobs you could do with MSW, and it's like where do
You can
some
do anything
where
with an
somebody go is
MSW.
like a big like pendulum of like swing, like where do you go?
Yeah. But what sucks is that like, you go into social work and you get your MSW, then you get licensed, but then it's like there's also still that barrier where like, here in Texas at least what I noticed is that like you to get a job, you have to be an LC here. Like you have to be a licensed clinical social work. You have to be fully licensed. They don't want to take
Mm,
an LMSW. And I'm like, but we're just as qualified. We have a license. We work towards this. Like, what's the issue?
right.
And in Arkansas, I see a lot of LMSWs and I'm like, yeah, like because I feel like that's normal because they still are valued and LC is valued, but Texas is just so hard. I feel like that is such a barrier too. I feel like for a lot of social workers because they have to wait their 2 years, they have to do their supervision hours and they want to be able to be in good paying jobs and that are stable and be able to offer services. But like once you're an LC, like the door's open, wide open, but you're kind of stuck as an LMSW. And I don't know if that's something that also needs to change within our board or what, but like I just wish that there was just a way that it was that LMSW was valued just a little bit more than what it is.
No, yeah, absolutely, and I know shout out to NSW Illinois that like kind of did that change and kind of not needing that their version of the L and or taking the test for that L and just kind of focus on getting the LC. And then it's like I've heard other states that you have to get the L, but like you said, like they don't value the L. So like, what's the point of paying for the exam to get the L? You could just let them get like a general license or something, and just so that they could get the hours, so that they can get the LC. So it's like all these different states do different things, and even like bordering states. Like you're working in bordering states, and you're seeing two different things. So it's like it it makes things frustrating, and people move, and it's
Oh
like
yeah.
so it's like and nowadays you kind of almost have to like depending what state you're in, almost like forced to move or at least have it like a strong consideration of moving somewhere that's more affordable and it's like it's just a lot and you really have to like you don't have to like think about you shouldn't think about okay is my license going to be like worth a damn in the state I'm contemplating on moving like it should be like already like I could get a job with my L or LC and I'm good instead of like paying for extra fee just to have it like transferred or what have you. So just the whole system needs a complete overhaul, and it's
Update.
like and not just like the damn test, like removing an answer to the question and only have like three answers. Like that's not a solution. Like
Yeah.
it's just a lot. It's really a lot. It's frustrating. It's really annoying, and it's which is which is why every once in a blue now I do put my post of FASWB, which is I've created shirts based on that. So go ahead and purchase a shirt. Um, so it's like is really a lot, and and it comes from the top. It comes from NASW, ASWB, and also the C, that other one that actually does the accreditation for the graduate schools. I always forget their acronym. They have all this power, but then they you never hear from them. So it's like kind of kind of like all of them working in cahoots, and it's all about the money. So it's just follow where the money leads to, and it's like, but it's really a lot, and it's like why we need social workers. All right, so eliminate some of these barriers so that you can have us work and pay us a real livable wage that money is not going to go and all the most of the money is not going to go to rent, and then we we might as well be one of the clients and like we pay our rent this month or we gotta like buy food and there's transportation and gas is expensive and the public transportation system from many places is non-existent, so you got to drive and be stuck in traffic and roadways and it's goes back to that domino effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. So what do you think like the goals of 2023 are? Like what do you think the goals of this year need to be? I guess like in terms of, is it just kind of like going back to a micro level of like just social workers or macro level like the US? Like what do you think the goals are?
uh, Probably a little bit more on a micro level, like you start from kind of like the ground up. Like we should like still be like advocating for like student loans to be forgiveness, and
Oh.
if that takes be like a Twitter troll and like tweet at Biden like every day, or tweet at Supreme Court, whatever their Twitter handle is, and it's like every
Go with
day. like every day do that, and NASW has gone more up in terms of like the macro is like, okay, they have a new CEO, like let's see what he does in terms of NASW and actually really provide advocacy for us social workers that are doing the groundwork and having a my issue with them is like they like to do these like little press releases and put it on Instagram thinking they doing a lot, or they might have these talks here and there. But then, no, I would love to see you out in front of the Capitol or in front of the White House and actually invite us to go down there and do a rally and kind of like make our voices heard. And I know COVID kind of had like a lot to do with that. And then monkeypox came out of nowhere, and it's like,
Gosh.
they got RSV and like all these other stuff. So that kind of like goes with the territory. We just wear our masks and go march and talk and like and advocate. So and so it's like things like that to actually we always do content creation like that. That's a whole lot of content right there. Have like hundreds and hundreds of social workers and like shouting at the White House for our loans to be forgiven, or kind of like things like that. But again, it goes to like state senators and regular senators and mayor races and city council, school board stuff. School boards got a lot of power that people don't really realize and kind of take it for granted. Now, I'm learning about school boards, myself, and listen to my. It's hard listening to like 2 hours of a school board meeting, and like it really is, and depending on where you live at and the issues that you really want to hear about, that's like they're like dragging their feet or just don't really have talk about the main issues they need to talk about. So, but it starts like like grassroots stuff, like everything else.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, the goals for this year would definitely be, student loans for sure, like 100%. Like if we can alleviate, a lot of families to be able to just like take that off of their shoulders and they'll able to spend money and, capitalism, right? Like, you just take that away. People are wanting to invest more and they're going to be able to want to spend more because now they don't have this horrible debt like on their shoulders. So yes, like 100% student loans need to go. I think the next goal, I was thinking about this earlier or the other day after that tragedy of that 6-year-old that shot, the teacher, and just making sure like, schools are safe and like gun laws are just better
Mm-hmm.
and workplaces are safer, and just, mental health plays a massive, role in this as part of it, but not all the time it's mental health. It's just also just like that, the access that we have to guns, and no other country has that type of access. And so just the safety of our students. I just like, I hate having a kiddo afraid in my office and just talking about, being traumatized because of the fact, like, all the drills that they're doing, and just
Yeah.
like the constant talk about, this is what we need to do if an intruder comes in, and da 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 da, and it's just terrifying. So I think about that. I think that's another goal. And then, my personal goal is always trying to make mental health, not be as taboo for the Latinx community, the Hispanic community, and just continuing to be able to be accessible and be able to provide services and be able to just be a person of support in this
Mm-hmm.
community. That's like more on the smaller micro level, but I think
Right.
that those are the goals. I feel like, for at least when I think about goals for 2023, student loans, gun control, and then access to mental health for everybody, but specifically Latinos, Hispanic community.
That's definite. And the sad part when I heard about that the kiddo and where it was at, just driving through Virginia and knowing it's like a kind of like an open carry state, and it's like, and just my experience in the school like last year, how 6 year olds kind of like acted, and then like the lack of impulse control and just like structure, it is like it's just a recipe for disaster. And my experience, last year, like kind of like the school system kind of like went back pre-COVID in terms of how they were trying to do things, and it's like without and teachers not having or not wanting to include SEL in terms of their teachings in the school year. So it was just a recipe for disaster. So when I heard that, I was like surprised, but like not really. And like, yeah, having the 6 year old kind of like it sucks because we six, and but I was like, you would think a regular 6 year old be like, he didn't know what he was doing. But and just from my experience in the school, like I think that kid knew what he was doing. just to be cynical, and it's like maybe just obviously with the impulse controls, like you react before you actually like think. But like I wasn't, unfortunately, not I wasn't surprised as to what happened. And it totally, sucks all the way around for the kid, for the classmates, obviously for the teacher, the victim, and just victims like through all across the board.
Yeah. No, that was when I heard about that, I was so sad. It just made me feel like, when is this ever going to end? Like, when is like all of this going to just stop? Like, when am I going to not see another shooting in the news? And I just feel like it's just never going to end. And you would think after Uvalde, it would be like, this is horrific and it's a tragedy. Like, okay, like now we're really going to have to do something about it. But no, like,
Well, after the shooting in years ago in Connecticut,
and you had,
when nothing was done, I was like, it's never happening. It's just not like that. That was their perfect opportunity to have gun reform in place. Like that was a tragedy be beyond tragedy, and like every is like the 9/11 of like the school system, in a way is like every anniversary that comes up is just like, and now on Twitter and seeing the survivors of those kids that went to the school, now they're teenagers, and now they're pretty much almost eligible to vote now, and it's like to see like their pain, and it's like it happened yesterday, and it's like it's just a lot. So I don't think it's ever uh, like it's not happening unless hopefully in our lifetimes we could see something when those same kids, maybe they get into politics and say, look, this is what I went through, like, or the survivor of this back in this, and maybe something might happen. Or when like all these politicians who've been there forever finally get voted out, or they unfortunately pass away, because many of them are been there 15, 20, 20 years, and like they're in
yeah.
their 80s and stuff, like, so it's like it's when they retire or whatever, they pass away, then like hopefully more younger people come in and kind of make these changes. But if not, it's not happening anytime soon. I don't see that.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna take a lot. I mean, in my state right now, it's anybody can carry a gun now, and that it was just like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy to me. But it's Texas, right?
Yeah.
Texas. Like there's not nothing more to say about that other than it's Texas. So I don't know what is it gonna take for people to, take more action, but I hope it's soon because it's really difficult to see that on the news all the time and I keep wondering like when is it going to be like the time where I just don't feel phased by it anymore, but I still feel phased by it. So I'm like, I still have a heart. I still like it still hurts. It's still like something that's hard for me because if I just saw it and I just scroll past it, like then that's when I know that it's not gonna ever nothing's ever gonna change.
No, yeah, and it's something that's harder to try to get away from because I think one of the negatives of iPhones and just phones
TikTok.
in general, like you get your news like it kind of instantly on the phone, and it's like breaking news. This just happened. Is like I just literally woke up, like and it's like already like just going through like a traumatizing like something that's traumatizing when something happened, or even like as of this recording today, like airlines like the flights were grounded because of freaking like computer glitching with the FAA, and I was like, what? It's like,
Gosh, I hope not. I'm trying to travel this year. I don't need to be delayed.
no, no, exactly. I'm sorry, I don't need my flight to go when I go to Dallas in March to be delayed, and I want to have some fun and meet people in person and
Yeah.
do whatever talk that they whatever they're. I still don't know the whole details of how they're gonna have us do the talk, whatever. But no, I'm looking forward to that. Or there's already a buzz for it, and meet people like yourself and like kind of like and other social workers and social workers who I met through the podcast from Texas, like, and even like undergrad friends, like, hey, guess who's finally coming to Texas? And it's like, get ready.
Get
So it's like
ready.
putting it out there. So it's like looking forward to it, and I don't need any plane trauma.
No, we need you here. When are those dates again?
Is March 4th. Saturday, March 4th is the Latinx and Social Work uh, New York, New Jersey contingency invades Texas.
Oh my gosh. Woo. It's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah, shout out to Dr. Letty, who's
Yeah, Dr. Letty, love her.
she's organizing the event, and be in Dallas College is, I forget which campus is on. I think I want to say Mountain Campus. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. I feel like I'm gonna feel like such an entrepreneur because I'm literally going to Dallas like a weekend trip, taking a PTO day Friday, leaving that Friday. The conference is Saturday, and I'm coming back to Delaware Sunday to go back to work on Monday. Like, what did
Goodness.
you be like? What'd you do this weekend? "Oh, I just went to Dallas. That's all for a weekend trip."
Yeah. Well, there's stuff to do, and you can see it all in a weekend.
Yes, just want to give the middle finger to AT&T Stadium
Hey, that stadium is nice, but I'm a Bears fan. I actually got to see the Bears at AT&T Stadium on my birthday,
Oh,
and
nice.
it was so great. But the stadium is beautiful. Like I can't. There's nothing I can say. I love Soldier Field, but I'm just like, wow, like it blows you away when you see it.
Not to switch gears, but I saw they trying to renovate Soldier Field again. I was like,
Oh my
it
God.
just got renovated. Like, what you gonna?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
y'all could use this money for like real affordable housing, like in Chicago, or like help with the crime that's like always on the news. It was like don't give the money to, yeah, just fix the stadium.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Add more seats to Wrigley, so Wrigley Field.
Oh my God. Yes.
How was 2022 for you?
For me, I think I had a really great year in 2022. I um I made the switch to private practice. I got promoted as clinical director where I'm at right now at Therapy Works. I think it's been like very surreal becoming a clinical director at a group practice. I've been doing social work since 2018, and I was like, I don't know if I have the experience to do this, or like, do I actually, like, I had definitely had some imposter syndrome going on. Like, am I actually like capable? And it's been great. It's been definitely a learning curve, and like learning just, different personalities at work, and learning how to manage, such a large group of people, and then supervising interns and making connections in the community, doing trainings, and it's kind of a different type of social work. Like, you have the social work that's, in the office one-on-one with your client. And then you have the social worker where you're like building a program and just making sure that like the day that you leave it where like the next person that takes over is like, wow, like this is such a great program. And Diana did a great job because I'm the first one that's actually creating it, right? And so it's like that's like kind of a lot of excitement. So we'll see what 2023 will bring me in my career. I know the goal right now is to get my dog certified in therapy so she can come to work with me and like provide
Oh,
some
nice.
yeah, some support to my clients. And I told myself and my dog Autumn and that 2023 is her year. I did my year last year, but 2023 is her year, so I'm doing a lot of investing in her and doing trainings with her and getting her ready, and hopefully soon she can be a therapist and provide that support. So 2022 I think was great, like at least for me personally, not the world, but for me personally it was great.
No, that's good. Yeah, I mean, 2022, like the ending was like not not great, but for the most part, it was you know pretty pretty good. I can't don't have too many complaints. So,
Right.
um, and any other goals for the new year, 2023?
Definitely this year, I want to. In Texas, we have what's called the LCSWS, which is the supervisor. And so I'm going to be eligible in October, which I'm very excited about. I'm very passionate about, working with a lot of, you know, clinicians, especially those that are going through their clinical hours. And I want to be able to be that a person in the community that can provide support for them. And growing up as a Latina and the oldest daughter, I never had anybody above me to like provide me any guidance or support, and so I was always the one that was figuring it out and trying to figure things out, like for school and for this and for that. And then when I entered social work and was getting a supervisor and going through my clinical hours, like I would have loved to have a supervisor that spoke Spanish,
Mhm.
and provided me with like, this is how you say this in Spanish, or this is how you, do this clinical work, or you do this or this intervention, and this is these cultural concepts. And I felt like I had to learn that all by myself. And with the
Mm,
support of like my best friend Jessica, because she literally and I'm telling you, we worked together. We had an office side by side, and so we supported each other, best friends since when I was 15. So she was like my go-to person for questions about like, well, what do I do here, what do I say here? And but now that I'm in a role where like I can provide that guidance, like my goal is to be able to be somebody that can provide that bilingual supervision and insight to the Latino community, because this is the only population I really served my whole career. And so
mm,
I feel like I know them pretty well now, and I still learn more and more as I keep doing social work. And I just want to be that person that can provide that support and for the next clinicians and the future clinicians. So that's the goal too, as well.
no, that's awesome, and we just keep growing.
Yeah.
I know there's always been talk. I think we might be the majority in terms of population, like 2050, something like that. So it's like we're coming. Like there's no such thing as like Invasion 2.0 or like the Latin explosion, like in the music, like in the 2000s. Like like we here, we've been here. It's like we always kind of like seem like we always like second or third fiddle, and I know there's been a lot and with like African American stuff and Jewish history and like all this stuff in terms of like the mistreatment of them and their culture throughout their history. But we've been in the background too, and
Right.
it is like kind of like enough and is enough. Like stop being in the background, and it's like no, we need to see more representation, not only especially in social work because there's like more of us in terms of clients and struggling to navigate spaces in our communities, but also just like in television and in film. And I mean, we're seeing it like slowly. Like you really have to like kind of like put yourself out there to like kind of like really see that. And I know LinkedIn is definitely like a great source. Like you see a lot like, oh snap, there's like a lot of people really doing positive things in the community, like for us, by us, and it's like we need our just due. Is
Yeah,
long overdue.
it is long overdue. Yeah, we definitely need that representation. My friend and I, she in Arkansas, we did so much trying to like just spread the word about like, our services at Centers for Youth and Families when we were working there together. And we would like go knock on doors and just hand out flyers and go to businesses and, trying to like get people interested in just talking about mental health and just starting there. And then like, kind of shaping the younger generations about like, encouraging them to do social work. Like they'll be like, oh, I want to be a psychologist. Like, well, you can be a social worker and do the same thing for less time. And let me tell you more about it. And just trying to convince, well, not convince, I guess, like, educate them about more about social work and just having them get excited about it. And hopefully, like, I've seen a massive growth in Arkansas of just like bilingual clinicians. And I was like, where did all these people come from? And I still try to network there. And so here in Texas, it's like the same thing, only just kind of starting from scratch. It's like they're out there, but like
Yeah.
where are y'all and how can we connect?
There's somebody I could connect to who's a school social worker in Texas.
Yeah.
That's Latina, so she does a lot of cool stuff. So speaking of connection, final question: where can people find you?
Yeah, so I am located at Therapy Works Counseling. We have 5 locations, and I work out of the Frisco and the Dallas location. Um, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, but that one's my personal account, so you can just find me on LinkedIn. Um, and then, yeah, we have our website at Therapy Works Counseling. You can reach me there. But that's what I got.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. Hope to see you in Dallas in March.
Yeah, I wrote down the
Rocking.
date.
Yeah, so more info on the date is coming. I'm actually scheduled to interview Dr. Letty, who's doing the conference. So
Yeah.
I told her, so she said it like you need to come on so you can promote the conference. So that's happening soon on the podcast. So you're on the lookout for that and more info when it comes on. So.
Yay, awesome. Looking forward to it.
Hey, before we continue on this week's episode, I got to talk about my brand new sponsor, the Social Work Brands podcast has a real sponsor, and I'm so excited. It's Herd Technologies Incorporated. And listen up, if you work in private practice, this is definitely for you. Herd is the financial back office for mental health professionals On average, they save therapists more than 60 hours per year in financial record keeping and $5,000 in taxes. We're in tax season, folks, so pay attention. If you're in private practice, a social worker in private practice, they'll take care of all your accounting needs, including bookkeeping, taxes, and payroll. They'll support your business throughout the year to make sure that you get maximum deductions. Now, who wouldn't want maximum deductions on their tax return? I highly recommend them if you're looking to get help for your finances. Check out joinher.com for more information. This is a game changer. This is tax season here in America. So joinher.com for more information.